Okay, first off, you've been struck by a case of midnight mania. Though it's past midnight, but just a little energetic right now. Okay, so this is the wrong thing that I wanted to talk about. Right here is the. This is just not too completely relevant, but it's something I figured I'd pull up just to have some bases covered. Let's see, just hours after the Supreme Court decision ending 50 years of abortion rights, President Biden outlined his ideal response: elect more Democrats. This fall, Roe is on the ballot. Biden said at the White House, personal freedoms are on the ballot. The right to privacy, liberty, equality, they're all on the ballot. A short distance away, House Democrats gathered on the steps of the U.S. Capitol to sing a heartfelt rendition of God Bless America. Now, this is the big issue here. Yeah. Firstly, I don't think that the primary concern of American citizens at the moment is guns. I don't think that that's exactly what people are talking about. I think a minority of us are talking about guns, and I think, honestly, I'll give it credit where credit's due, a fair bit are talking about abortion. I think I'm kind of behind on that. After all, I spent 3 days trying to set something up that fell through. But, you know, abortion is really one of the bigger talking points. But I think the biggest thing that Americans are focused on right now is pretty simple, actually. Gas, food, resources in general that, we need to live. I mean, what is it? Think of it this way. A buddy of mine, right? He was watching Supernatural the other day, an episode that was aired in 2009. And when a reference was made to the apocalypse occurring, it was answered with, what, you mean blood in the water, locusts in the sky, $5 gasoline apocalypse? Yeah. Gasoline is reaching ridiculous levels. I mean, it's right. $5 is almost apocalyptic in the scheme of things. I mean, there are places in this country where gas is already $5. I don't think it's most places, but there are definitely places where it is. And let's see. Here we are. Okay. So it's not a huge number that is at $5 a gallon, but I mean, even my home state, that's an absurd number. $4.49. Christ alive. I mean, but then you've got Illinois, right? So let's see. Okay, so the national average, $4.89. We are seriously closing in on the $5 mark. And that's not good. And I mean, let's look at, what is it? Where's diesel at? I mean, just looking at this, scrolling down real quick, there isn't anywhere where diesel is under $5. So I would say the national average for diesel is in the 5 range, right? Probably closer to 6, honestly, based on what I'm seeing. But this is not good, right? This is obviously not good, and this is obviously going to be a primary focus of ordinary people. Now, there are definitely people focusing on the abortion argument through and through. There are definitely people focusing on the abortion argument, and I understand why, right? The overturning of Roe v. Wade. I personally think it's a good thing. Yeah. Now, my reasoning for thinking that has more to do with being a small government type, thinking that, what is it? I guess you call it a federalist. I think it's just of the utmost importance that we give as many decisions as possible back to the states. I think having a strong federal government isn't necessarily the worst thing. But the federal government is so trash. I obviously would have to have discussions with people who know more than me about this particular topic, but as far as it's concerned, I feel like the federal government should be more concerned with foreign policy and enforcing constitutional rights and some tax collection. I mean, there are definitely things that the federal government needs to do, whereas other people would say, abolish the federal government all the way through and through. Those are some crazy people, but also an extreme minority, I would say. There's obviously a place for the federal government being large like that. However, I really do think it is of the utmost importance that we allow the states to make these decisions themselves. I think probably one of the greatest disservices that was ever done to the American people was allowing them to vote for federal officials. Obviously, there's exceptions to this. There were always votes for federal officials, officers like the president. But I think both the Senate and Congress didn't have any public voting. It was the state representatives, like the governor, if I'm not mistaken, that were in charge of picking who was our representatives to the federal government. I actually don't think that was a bad thing. I mean, it's obvious, right? If you look at what ultimately happens every single time that you engage in extreme democracy. Democracies are evil. They always will be. I mean, what is it? The reason why the American system was set up in the way that it was to protect the rights of the minority. Democratic systems aren't a bad thing on the whole, but they can easily be abused to create evil, to commit evil actions, and to what most people would see as justifiably. And so I think decentralizing the power more will be a good thing. This is going to sound a little ridiculous, but I think Fallout had a good idea. And what I mean by that is it's honestly kind of similar to what is that? The Hunger Games. Districts, right? Not like District 6 and District 1. And no, I'm thinking more along the lines of what it was, commonwealths, like they did in Fallout. I think that a regional system wouldn't be bad. So I think obviously it would have to be broke into more blocks than this, but like a sort of southeastern, northeastern, northwestern, southwestern, and a sort of like middle of the country. Yeah. I suppose you do Midwest, Mideast. Yeah. And I think it's just because these groups are very culturally different, despite being from the same country. And I think it might be a good idea to add essentially new representative offices for these areas. I'm not exactly sure how you would do this or what their jobs would be, but I think decentralizing the system a little more to decentralization, while also just a slight bit more centralization, taking a little bit of power away from the federal government, but adding a new representative that's the representative of a region versus a state. I don't think that's a bad idea. And maybe we can even, instead of removing entirely the right for, this might not be a bad idea. Instead of actually removing the rights for individuals to vote for our federal representatives, instead we use the old system where the representatives for each state will vote for the Commonwealth representative. And essentially what will happen is that will draw people's attention back to their local officials, because in order to vote for in order to determine who their Commonwealth representative is going to be. It's going to have to be done through their own local representatives. But I don't know exactly what kind of power a Commonwealth representative would hold, and I'm not exactly sure what we would have to do something like that, because it sounds like Convention of States territory, kind of restructuring the government kind of situation. Though I don't think it's the kind of restructuring that's so insane that people would be too opposed to it. It might not be a bad idea, actually, because it would allow for a conversation between the Commonwealth representatives. It would hopefully create a sort of a larger level representative that can discuss these issues that we're having between all of us, where people are saying things like secession and such. I would hope that representatives of a region would be more apt to be able to describe what the policies of that region are, given that I don't see Alabama's politics as being too different from Texas or Kentucky. Tennessee, maybe. There's probably some differences. But the point is I think that we're more likely to be served by having a sort of regional representative than just a state or federal representative. But as I said, I think that ultimately the right move, and I think that's sort of what's happening with the Supreme Court's decisions, is a move towards federalism. Well, so I think that's not a bad thing. I mean, I think it's pretty obvious that I'm in favor of it, but who knows? Maybe we end up on the other end of this with a Federalist Utopia. I highly doubt it. I think that the more likely thing to occur is we see some kind of great economic depression and things get really bad for a while. It's pretty concerning, actually. But, in any sense, I want to discuss exactly why it seemed like I gave up after 2 videos. That was because, for a period, I was attempting to set some stuff up so that I could record with another person. I've got a set of people that I'd like to record some videos with to get varying opinions on these things. These are individuals that I have extremely easy access to, but I think that they add a variety to the opinions that are available, hopefully, on this channel in the future. Those would be, let's see, I've got an older woman. She's in her, I don't think she'll really care if I say, but she's in her 60s, and obviously boomer. I think that having her opinion contrasting to someone like me, a Gen Z, I guess. I am technically Gen Z, though I would definitely not consider myself a part of the Gen Z cultural stuff. I stay away from social media so heavily, I have no idea what most of them believe. Then, a true Gen Z, actually my cousin. The boomer is actually my grandmother. So, go figure. Easy people. She's Gen Z, younger, actually involved with this stuff. A little bit more, at least. And half Hispanic. I would also like to have some of her sisters on, or at least one of her sisters. She's a little older. Still Gen Z, though, and way more heavily involved in it than the one that I'm actually planning on bringing on. In fact, I would consider to be her. I would consider her to be. Sorry about that. I'm impoverished, and I have to use Droid Cam to record things, and I got a phone call in the middle of this sort of outro piece. So, as I was saying, she's much farther left than the other one that I'm planning on having on, and the final person, or at least one of the final 2 people, is they're also Gen Z. I mean, they're the same age as me. I don't know if I've said anything about myself. I'm 22, and my name is Troyce, TJ. Anyway, some friends of mine, One of them is black, the other is white, and the reason why that's important is because, well, first off, I think, black people can have a different political perspective given the whole cultural stuff. But the main reason why that's important is because they're actually a couple, and they have a kid, and they're also my roommates. So, yeah. Anyway, that should be it. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.